So welcome back, everybody. This is Paul again, another of my series about awareness and who we are and so on, and the old questions. And I make the point in most of my videos that the human awareness, just the fact that we have this body, it has tremendous potential that we don't tend to be taught about when we're young. And that's a part of self-discovery. And that's why the age-old adage about just know yourself. Because if you know yourself, and you'll realize that you have an incredible opportunity as a human being just to be conscious, because there's an immense amount that we can learn and understand. You know, just exciting things about our own existence. And one of the questions that always comes up, and this is really relevant, so I'm going to dwell on this today a little bit, that people ask, well, you know, we're conscious, you know, but what about other beings? What other kinds of beings are out there, you know, and we hear all these stories and mythologies about these creatures and weird beings and spirit beings and ghosts and angels and demons and jinn and all these things. You hear these stories about this stuff. And, you know, that's a good question, you know, but again, back to the simple answer is, the sages say that if you follow your own awareness within and become more conscious yourself, you realize that ultimately all these beings, there's a big bowl, you might say, like the ocean has a lot of fish in it, you know, and in that there's an infinite amount of different kinds of living things within that ocean. And then the water itself has its own properties that are seemingly alive. So we literally live in an ocean of awareness, and trying to separate how many beings there are. I mean, once upon a time, if you went up to somebody and said, hey, you know, inside your being, there's in your intestines, there's all these like creatures in there, and they're digesting your food, and they grow and multiply, and sometimes you get worms, and I mean, they tell you you're nuts. But the same way, just because we're not conscious of other kinds of awarenesses doesn't mean that they don't exist. You see, that's a hard thing for a lot of people to wrap their minds around. And the truth is, again, in some of my other videos I've been talking about how we are not really this body. We are basically inhabiting a collection of energies here, systems, and these systems, there's systems within us that are automatically going on. Like we're just sitting here, and they're automatically going on. So these other creatures, these bacteria and so on, are taking care of business down there, you know. So it's a funny thing to talk about when people ask, well, are there other beings? Well, of course. I mean, you just have to we have to use our logic here. We know that there's a lot of life that scientists tell us, okay, there's microbes, okay, they're alive. They're alive. We don't see them. We never think about them. You know, just they're there. We also, our water energy is filled with stuff. I mean, everything that we are in that collection of energies, there's awareness built into all of it. All of it. And the subtle things that we don't really pay much attention to are the heat in our body, or whether or not we're feeling something from our hairs, or the electrical tension of our skin, or the static electricity on our head and the hair, or anything, number of different sensations that we can be aware of while we're existing. So again, you know, it gets really complicated, because are there other beings? There's billions and gazillions, as many kind of beings as you can possibly imagine. So then you get that question is, okay, if there's so many kinds of beings, and there's so many kinds of life experiences and awarenesses and energies, perhaps ultimately, you know, we really just go right to the simplicity, right out, just follow it all the way to the end, take the shortcut and go to the simple. Don't even worry about all those other beings, because the one that we are within us is a simplicity of existence. that doesn't have, it's not in relation to anything. It's neutral. It's non-judgmental. That's why they say God is love, because pure awareness doesn't have judgment. It is something. It is life. It is whatever's existing. It is that in its essence. And essentially, if that power and that essence is within us, then all the great sages, there's so many people who are out there. The question is, how do we start making that practical? And one of the first steps is people have to just adjust the thinking. You know, it's a simple thing like saying, okay, I'm not the body. There's a lot more to my awareness, that if I release myself in a state of meditation, an immense amount of practical realization and observation and understanding can happen very quickly. You know, I mean, life is supposed to be a day after day of continuous enlightenment, more learning more, becoming more conscious, feeling more, and so on. And we only have a short life these days. I mean, I don't know, maybe someday in the future we'll be able to live for thousands of years and just learn everything we want to learn, but we have a very short amount of time here. So once again, I keep talking about just trying to help our own self understand it's not that complicated. It's a matter of perception, and then running with it and just saying, okay, I can experience a lot more in this existence than I've been taught, or than I think, and even if I am quite alert right now, in the future I can even be more conscious. So life becomes very, very exciting that way. There's a lot to learn here. And people spend a lot of time debating and arguing on the internet about what somebody's saying. Well, who's, whatever. He's sponsored by somebody, or not sponsored by somebody, or don't believe what he says. Now, we know for sure, whatever exists that's real, the ultimate reality is beyond what we assume, right? I mean, we're brought up in a society where we're taught certain things. Reality is more than that. Obviously, it's more than that. I mean, we read the history books. You can read 1,000 history books, but the reality was 100,000. You know, I mean, the reality is so much different than just a book. And our life is supposed to be that way. We're supposed to actually have a lot more awareness, and if we have some more awareness, we'll probably live longer. And even if we do live a short life, we'll learn a lot. And I'm out here putting my 2 cents in. I talk about some very strange subjects sometimes. And I have to say, you know, because I put together a lot of dots. If you learn a lot of things and start thinking, okay, let's take one subject, for example. We say the whole UFO subject. I mean, if one white crow says not all crows are black. So one real UFO, wherever it comes from, you know, if it just happens here from another energy field or whatever, then it's real. So, you know, like I said, reality is a lot more exciting than what we can come up with in our imagination, because the reality is actually the pool of millions and millions of billions of beings of imagination. Consciousness is a literal sea of ingenuity, you might say. And we have an opportunity to tap into that. And I'm just trying to tell people that, look, there's resources out there that you can go to and get even more information and better practical techniques than what I have here. But I do practice meditation. I highly recommend it. So I appreciate all the feedback. I'm going to be making a lot more videos in the near future here, and we're going through some really interesting times. A few years ago I talked about 2012 and all that hoopla was going on. I knew we'd be sailing on through, but the chaos is continuing. I mean, there's just like endless stuff going on. So, you know, I would just say pay attention, because there's a lot to this reality. Again, bring back to the media out there has an agenda that is manipulative, for sure. I mean, it's out there. So we have to be careful, especially when it comes from the heavy corporate sponsored media that is just like, you know, they're paying a lot of money for a reason, because they want to steer things a certain way. I mean, it's just obvious. I mean, it seems like that old story of the emperor's new clothes is really appropriate right here. You know, well, the emperor's got no clothes, sir, the game's over here. You know, we all see through the bullshit, pardon my language, but again, it comes back to our own perception, who we know we are. You know, human beings are like an amazing vehicle. I mean, again, all kinds of beings in consciousness are allowed to have a human body. I mean, that's a simple way of explaining, that explains a lot. You know, I mean, in this time of a great opportunity, there's some really strange beings that have come into the human body, you know, but at the same time, there's like billions, and really a good time to be born right now, because there's a lot of available opportunities for service and enlightenment. So once again, I'm going to finish my video here. I welcome questions, and you know, I don't like rude comments. I don't post rude comments, so you know. But every once in a while somebody has a comment that is kind of unprofessional, you might say, but I am also open to new ideas from people and information that I'm gathering for more and more exploration of this exciting time that we're living. So again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.